Via Getty is not a proper name. This is the focus group.
Listen, laugh, and learn.
You have to drill that target audience.
It's the focus group with Tim Bennett and John Nash.
Until they are consuming your product, not because they love it, but because they can't escape.
We're all business.
Drill, baby, no more pussyfooting around.
Except when we're not.
Welcome to the focus group. John Nash here with my good friend and co-host Tim Bennett. You can find us here on Wednesdays from 1 to 2 p.m. live on Facebook and YouTube. And of course, focusgroupradio.com is where all our media is housed, including our Tuesday podcast, TFG Unbuttoned, which I urge you to subscribe to. And once you do, I'm sure you'll be liking and rating it with big 5-star reviews and thumbs up. And here we are, Mr. Bennett, a new week.
What was that tease?
Via Getty. It goes to caught my eye. It's caught my eye.
You're okay. See, I'm at a disadvantage because you, as the producer of the show, you see everything that comes in, so you've got a bit of an advantage. But I was like, what does Via Getty mean? So that'll be part of caught my eye.
It will indeed, and it relates to the events of the past week, which we have no intention of ignoring here on the show. But I think that everybody is getting a full dose of commentary and news 24/7, so we're not going to rehash it too much except to say what a roller coaster ride. I watched last week. I watched in curiosity to watch the Senate and the House and the Senate certify the Electoral College vote. And as it was happening in real time, suddenly, I think it was Chuck Todd's like, hey, they're ushering Mike Pence. Is that Secret Service? Are they taking him out? It unfolded in real time. And the horrible part? It gets worse. Whatever we saw last week is just snowballing. There's more video that comes out. There's more handheld stuff. There's more live streams. Pretty bad. Pretty shocking to me, actually, and I'm sure to everybody, or most people. So, yeah, here we are.
The week can't go fast enough.
2021, right?
And we've said this all along, and everybody else, and probably most people that don't listen to this show probably need to hear this, but the Republicans created a lot of this, and they're complicit to it, and allowed it to go on. And we found ourselves in a real mess. And I don't know how you fix it.
It's kind of like, on TFG Unbuttoned, if you tuned into our Tuesday podcast, which is about 20 minutes long, we usually hit on 3 topics that we find interesting. It's like someone walking around for a year saying the earth is flat. And eventually 90% of the people believe the earth is flat. And then you have everybody else says, no, it's round. And how do you disprove it? Because now, the lie that is spoken over and over and over again ends up to some people becoming the truth. And that's, I guess, what we're dealing with, right?
Yeah. I was like, what was one? I saw a great meme. There's still flat earthers out there.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm joking about it. Yeah.
And there was a meme that came out. I don't know if it was real, but it just made me laugh because it said, we have members from all around the world. The flat earthers had members from all around the world.
There was one guy out west who was building a private rocket to go up high enough to prove that it was flat. No matter that we have a space station up there, we've gone to the moon, we have many, 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 many pictures of Earth from orbit, from multiple countries and their satellites. It's all a big conspiracy. If Neil Armstrong were alive today, he was actually, a lot of the original astronauts kept to themselves, especially him. After the moon landing, he did the whole press thing, and he was a public figure, but he was very circumspect and quiet about going on the publicity tour because I don't think it was because of flat earthers, but could you imagine him sitting in a room like, you never went to the moon, you were in a Hollywood studio. How do you disprove that?
What do you think was... You've said that before. Do you think what do you think changed about them being there, having had that experience?
There have been a number of documentaries featuring the astronauts, and I think, I'm going to forget his name. He paints, and he's actually a good painter. He said it was the most transformative thing he's ever experienced in his life. And he said once he got back to Earth, it didn't matter if it was raining or snowing, if it was a hurricane, if it was sunny, if it was mild. No matter what it was life on Earth. And once you're on the moon and you realize there's no air, there's no water. I mean, it's a desolate ball of dirt, right? So a lot of them had these transformational, practically spiritual, moments thanks to the moon program. And I could imagine many of them had surreal things. Like, could you imagine like some of the astronauts walking down to a press event? You never went anywhere, or the Earth is flat. What do you say? What do? You wave?
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just so disappointed and disgusted and a whole bunch of other things, and I'm kind of.
You need a media cleanse. You need to do it. I was at my dentist earlier today, getting a small little cavity taken care of, which turned out to really not be a cavity per se, but a little crevice in the tooth that got,
Did you get Novocaine?
Yes, it did require that. And she's like, we known our dentist. She was a neighbor of ours for many years. And she said, my husband and I, we had a media blackout this weekend. I said, what's that?
How'd they do that?
She goes, Friday night to Sunday night, no news. It had to be entertainment or it had to be, something else. And I heard that and I thought, you know what? It's not so hard. If you go back in time before all the devices that we had that are always, giving us all the updates, just put the phone, the iPad away. If you turn on TV, make sure you're watching Netflix. Bob and I did something we haven't done in a while. We were so sickened by the news that we were like, where we need to go? We need to go back to Downton Abbey for a while. Because back in Downton Abbey, it was like, it was things that were bothersome, or the servant did this, someone upstairs did
Mold
that.
on the cheese.
Actually, that's actually pretty close. Mold on the cheese, yeah.
I just think they should not even cover the president for the rest of the, few days left. Just ignore him. I would just ignore him. And then just ignore him after Biden gets in office. Just ignore him. That'll be the best thing you could do. Don't cover him, because you're just feeding into the reality show. You're
feeding the beast.
Yeah, just ignore him. Go away.
So beyond that, we are all dealing with the event. And while there's this interesting struggle that I see with a lot of people I know. It's the new year. It's time to get moving. We've been under this various at-home orders or lockdowns since, last March and April. And I sense that frustration that, let's get back to normal, but it's not. And that's the part that I'm running up against myself personally is there is a lot of normalcy, or at least the new normal seems manageable, but I realize that I'm not going anywhere or doing anything. And I'm not saying that, like a lot of people are in the same boat, but it's, it's either you're home or you're at the grocery store or you're at a Lowe's or a Home Depot, maybe you're shop, but then you're home again.
What would you do? So what would you do? Take away, because a lot of stuff you did maybe. Like, what would you do immediately? If all of a sudden there was no chance of you getting sick, would you?
I go see a movie.
Go out to a restaurant.
I go see a movie.
Or you go to a movie.
Bob had never seen a movie that I love called SpiderMan Into the Spiderverse. 2 years ago, Sony Pictures came out with this animated film. Beautiful. It's a really interestingly animated film. And as superhero movies go, this was a Spider-Man I loved, and the box office loved it. A lot of people loved it. I think it won the Academy Award for Best Animated Picture that year. But Bob had never seen it, and I had it on my iTunes account, and so we call it up, and halfway through the film, he's like, wow, this is really well done. I love the script. I love the music. I love the look of the animation and what they've done. And the movie ends, and I was really melancholy at the end of the movie, and he's like, what's wrong? And I said, because I just had a memory of the day that I saw this. And he said, what do you mean? I said, it was 2 years ago. It was the winter. That movie had come out in 2018. In January of 2019, it was a beautiful day out, and I had every meeting I had got shifted or canceled, and it was like a free day. And I thought, I'm going to hop on the train, go to Times Square, and I'm going to go see Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse. It was one of those weird, you get on the train, half an hour later, I got off, I walked up, bought a ticket, went upstairs, sat in the theater. There was maybe 20 people in there, and, watched the film, left, loved it, was inspired by it, because at the time I was finishing up my animation work. So those are the things I miss. You can't just randomly do that. You can't randomly go see your folks. You have to think about that, because where have you been? Have you had a test lately? Where have they been? It's that kind of thing. There's really spontaneity. That's probably I could have circumvented the whole darn long-winded windbag story and said spontaneity. I miss spontaneity.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good one. Because I was trying to think what I would have done. I think I would like to, probably gather with friends and have a fun dinner out somewhere.
Yeah. But imagine being able to do that in a day's notice. Like, let's go out tonight. Okay, we're all set.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that,
Yeah.
we will get there. We will get there. We will get there again. Anyhow, moving on.
You got to figure out when you're going to get a shot. Is New York giving shots out?
They are it's a very gatekeep. There's a lot of gatekeeping, and it's a lot of levels, and it's first responders, people in homes and certain ages. I'm way down on the list, so I'm not gonna. It's gonna be a while. Anyway, let's move on and have some fun and say,
what caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
So this came from one of our listeners. This came from one of our listeners, Rich in Pennsylvania. He sent me this. And I was shocked when I saw it. So I don't know if you've seen this, but this happened in the BBC had done a screening of Grease for a bunch of young millennials, a bunch of young kids. And were shocked about what transpired and what came out of it. So the headline is, Grease is being slammed as racist, rapey, homophobic, and slut-shaming. So everybody knows the movie Grease. It was a huge hit, 1970s musical. It's under fire. The BBC did this showing on Boxing Day, 42 years after its release, and it did not fare well. We all know it as starring John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John, one of the highest-grossing films of all time. Tells a story of Sandy and Danny. Danny being John Travolta, kind of the rough and rugged guy, and Sandy being the studious one. And they have the summer romance, and then meet each other in high school, and romance ensues. So they asked them specifically to give feedback as to what was wrong with the movie. So can you guess anything that you would find wrong with the movie in today's day and age, or how you would view the movie?
Yeah, when you sent this over to be your caught your eye, I actually kind of smiled because we watched it recently, and I said at a couple points during the movie, I said, "Boy, Bob, I'm not sure this is moving into the new century very well, considering some of the stuff that that we just take as granted because it's Grease, and we know when it was made. This is from the 50s, whatever. But what were some of the things that they specifically objected to?
So as you know, one of the big things going on now when you mentioned movies earlier is they have these sing-along movies, and Grease is one of the more popular ones. Everybody knows the soundtrack, and so they do these sing-along movies. So one of the bigger issues throughout the whole the commentary from the kids is the song "Summer Love" or "Summer Nights." Yeah, and particularly the line, "Did she put up a fight?"
Oh, okay, that's kind of like "It's cold outside" at Christmas, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, da, 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 baby, it's cold outside. So this one, "Did she put up a fight?" So that they didn't like that. The lyric is sung by Danny with his journey of trying to seduce Sandy. And they said that was a sexist and kind of rapey line. Another point was made about Rizzo. They said she was slut shamed for having unprotected sex, and they even did a song about it. They said there was another part involving Danny's friend Putsy. They called him a pervert because he had hid under the gym floor in the gym floor looking up the girls' skirts at the Rydell High School. Then there was a part where Vince Fontaine, the radio announcer, made a homophobic remark about dancing, and there were to be no same-sex couples in the dance contest. Now, I don't even know if I remember that part in the movie. Does he say something about not dancing together? But did people dance together then? I don't even know.
I think girls did back in the day. But I'm probably way over my skis on any of this because, again, the problem with critiquing a movie like this for you and me is we know it so well that we don't even we're it's like being colorblind, right? I'm Grease blind. I just know the songs. It makes me laugh and smile.
Right. And what they said is the film was set in 1958, and so they said that it was 45 years even before homosexuality was universally decriminalized, even across the U.S. So they said that the issue about the dancing thing or whatever, they just some people our age that were watching this take place were just kind of scratching their heads about it. They said that the kids also mentioned that there was a glaring lack of LGBTQ awareness, which angered a lot of the users. That it shouldn't have been all boy-girl dancing. And then they also then moved that right into the fact that there was no black kids at the school. They said there were no kids of color at the school as well. And then they didn't think it was right that Sandy had to change and put on leather pants, that she should have just stayed who she was. She shouldn't have had to change for the boy. She was bullied. They said that Rizzo bullied her and ridiculed her, and that song Sandra D was a ridicule at the slumber party.
I remember that.
Yep. So again, lack of non-white faces, and went on and on. It said that there should be a disclaimer before they ever show this film again on TV to let people know what they're going to see, so they're not shocked. And many went as far as to say that it should never be shown again on TV and should be taken away. They asked Olivia Newton-John what she thought. She just simply said it's a movie. It was a fun story. It was never to be taken too seriously.
Thank you, Olivia.
That was her response.
Thank you. I'm glad you got her response in there, because isn't that the response? It was a movie.
Yes.
It's a movie.
It's a movie. It was fun. It was never to be taken too seriously. So, but I was shocked when I saw this, because listener sent this, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
Because if you remember, a couple years ago, they went after Rocky Horror.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And you've talked, they've gone after 16 Candles, they've gone after Blazing Saddles. There's a number of movies that they've gone after, but I was surprised. I thought Grease, and I thought, well, okay. Here we go. But, so
I
we'll
remember when we were in high school, if we ever had to see films for a class, the disclaimer that our teachers would always give is, please remember this was made many years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember once one of our classmates was like, well, why are you saying that? And he said, because norms have changed. People don't speak to each other this exact way any longer, and some things have changed. So you just want you to be aware that, what you're watching was made earlier.
Language, right?
So again, we were taught the ability to critically look at something and say, I'm not going to, yes, I get it. It was made 30 years ago, so they might not do that now, but wow.
Well, that's a big thing. I think it was To Kill a Mockingbird, where
Yes.
there's the use of the N-word quite a bit.
Quite a bit, yeah.
And there's lots of controversy as to whether that book should still be used as to be taught. And one of the greatest, people will say one of the greatest books written, right? In some regard. And yes, we don't use that language, but do you take that language out?
Yeah.
And that's always the debate, right? It's as you said, that's how it was written in that time, and how language was used at that time.
Yeah, and thank you for that. Let's not forget that's how people spoke.
Right.
Where the book is set, where it takes place, that was language that was used on a daily basis. And to ignore that is to basically say, well, that's a whole, hey, we're going down a different into a different show.
Yeah. Well, so what caught your eye?
Mine was very different. It is coming to us from the tragedy that befell the Capitol this past week. And the headline reads this: on social media, Via Getty accused of stealing House podium. And here's what the author said: it is hard to find anything remotely funny about Wednesday's assault on our nation's democracy after protesters literally stormed the Capitol building. However, a photo shared across social media has managed to bring out a bit of humor. So what the photo was is this. Let me click on this here. Okay, so on the left, this woman posts something that says, Via Getty, one of the rioters steals a podium from the Capitol. Well, Twitter went crazy because they thought the gentleman's name was Via Getty. And what it really means is Via Getty Images. You know how you gave a call out to, like, it's either Reuters or whatever. So
Shutterstock.
the image to the right was like someone says, and now we know his name is Via Getty, parentheses, WTF kind of a name is that anyway? Can't someone just go to his house, arrest him on his return, and bring Nancy's podium back?
Oh my God.
Now we know
there's not a drag queen named Via Getty.
No,
now,
there's
right?
not. Well, there better be, right? And then here's another Twitter thing. It says right there that his name is Via Getty. Another one. Arrest Via Getty. Fortunately,
Oh, my
some Twitter
God.
users actually understand English grammar, including this guy here who tweeted, "The photo comes via Getty Images." So, yeah, via.
That's like someone had one of the old lady protests where they called her Aunt Tifa.
And so some woman says, "I'm pushing mid-40s, but I'm going to get pregnant just so I can name my baby Via Getty."
Via Getty.
Yeah, and it wasn't just, unfortunately, Americans who did this. Many foreign services picked up on this. India, UK. I mean, it was the official Twitter account for the International Business Times. Public chat from India saw this trending on Twitter. Internet is losing it over Via Getty, the person who stole U.S. Capitol podium. Except, of course, Via Getty is Via Getty is not the name of the rioter. So one last little ripple to this was Twitter being Twitter and the internets being the internets. One guy chimes in at the very end of this whole Via Getty thing. This went on for many, many tweets until somebody's like, "Stop it. It means the photo comes via Getty." Someone said, just to put a nail in this, the gentleman is actually not walking and stealing a podium. He's taking a lectern. Because a lectern's different, right? A lectern is that wooden thing, the base with a podium is much more impressive and well built. So
Why would you call him a gentleman? It's a terrorist jackass.
Gentleman just crossed my mind because I don't want to use names.
He's not a gentleman, John.
Not a gentleman. All right.
Don't be nice. You're being too nice. They did catch him. What I love about all these idiots,
It's all on
is
tape.
because-
It's all been captured.
Well, and they refuse to wear masks, so it's
Yeah.
been ideal.
Yeah,
Right?
It's been
They've all
nothing,
been identified.
nothing but an enormous super spreader, right? I mean, it's just, yeah. So that's what caught my eye. There you go.
I missed that one. I didn't see that one, and I saw a lot of stuff.
I did laugh out loud, yeah, because it was just so insanely kind of cute in a way that you would take it at face value that someone's.
I know who that is. That's Via Getty. Says right there.
Must be Italian. You're like, what even nationality do you think someone whose name is Via Getty? Via Getty's from Rome. He was a big hotshot over in Rome. He had a little restaurant off the piazza, something like that.
Well, it's coming. So
Yeah.
There'd be a little bistro near you opened up soon. Little tiny spaghetti, pasta and sauce. So our business birthday today.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
So born today, January 13th in 1885, Alfred Carl Fuller was born in Nova Scotia, Canada, an American businessman who was the original Fuller brush man. Did you ever have a Fuller brush?
I know all about them. I don't know if we've
Do
ever
you?
had them, but I know all about the Fuller brush. I mean, it's a legend of sales, the door-to-door sales of the Fuller brush kits, right?
Yeah, he so at an early age he moved to Boston, Massachusetts in 1903 at the age of 18 to go live with his sister. And he worked for a company called the Somerville Brush and Mop Company, and he became a very, very successful salesman going door to door. So he decided in 1906 to go out on his own. So with a $75 investment, he moved down from Boston to Hartford and started the Fuller Brush Company. And by 1919, he'd become a millionaire. He sold $1 million. He built it to $1 million business, going door to door selling mops and brooms and brushes. And so he was recognized as for his success. And there were actually two movies done, one in 1948 called The Fuller Brush Man, and one in 1950, The Fuller Brush Girl, with Lucille Ball was in it. Have you seen the movie?
Was this like super early in her career?
Yeah. Yeah, it was obviously before I Love Lucy.
Was she a redhead?
I don't know.
But that would be interesting. Yeah, well, okay.
I saw some of the pictures and I laughed because actually, and we should watch it. I should have recommended it in our deep discount segment. I didn't. But there's some pictures of her where she's in some get-ups that actually look like some of the things she would wear in the later I Love Lucy shows.
That's Lucy
There's
McGillicuddy.
actually some things with headdresses and things that I did laugh at. And then in 1961, he actually recorded Secrets of Success. He did an album with Folkway Records called Careers in Selling, an Interview with Alfred Fuller. And the company remained in family hands until 1968 when it was acquired by Sarah Lee. He died in 1973, was buried in Nova Scotia. He was a major supporter of the University of Hartford's Heart School. and there's a Fuller Center, which is on the college campus there at the University of Hartford still. So the Fuller Brush Company still is in existence. It, as we said, it was purchased by Sara Lee in 1968, and then it changed hands a number of times, and then it filed bankruptcy in I believe it was 2012, and then in 2018 sold again to a company in Lakewood, New Jersey called Galaxy Brush, and they still sell and manufacture the items as of today. Up until 1985, it was still just done door to door.
Isn't that something?
I didn't realize it was that long that it was done door to door. They brought women in after World War II, and they had something called Fillerettes, and they were also doing a line of Stanley home products and debutante cosmetics. And they found that women could be more successful, and there was actually more women that could go door to door as well and sell. And
kind of like Avon, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's where, and they said that was a precursor to a lot of that as well. So so there's, as I said, they're still in existence. They said former employees that were famous Fuller Brush salesmen were Billy Graham, the evangelist, Pee Wee Herman, Paul Rubens was a Fuller Brush salesman.
No, stop. No.
Dennis Quaid, Dick Clark, and Jack Nicholson all were Fuller Brush salesmen.
Interesting. I actually find that the actors, especially like the Pee Wee Herman, Paul Rubens, that they excelled at doing this because I guess in a way sales, especially door to door, you need kind of a cast iron stomach, right? Because you're going to get a lot of no's and a lot of closed doors.
A lot of rejection.
But then when you get that person who might be interested in buying the product, you got to put on a show, right?
Well, when you think about it, right, that's how Aunt Barbara was so successful with Tupperware.
Yeah.
Right. When you think about it, she had told us, she said when she had watched her sister or sister-in-law try to sell Tupperware and how bored she was. Remember, she said she was unemployed. She was like, oh my God, you're not going to sell a thing here, honey. Let me take over. And, put on a show. And, becomes one of the top Tupperware salesperson in the country. It's the same thing. So I'm sure Pee Wee Herman probably went door to door and, put on a show each time. And you could see and then you think about it, Dick Clark, Jack Nicholson, Billy Graham, the evangelist. They said Billy Graham outsold every salesperson in North Carolina.
I don't doubt it. And then he went from selling brushes to selling, redemption. That's a very natural, I suppose.
Selling your soul.
Yeah, I suppose in the sales world, that's a very natural, Yeah. Excellent. Thank you for this one. I know you had some options, but this was my personal favorite, and I think the Fuller Brush Man is fantastic. All right, as many of you know, Deep Discount is a partner of ours here on the Focus Group, and we would like you to visit them by visiting us, focusgroupradio.com, and click on the Deep Discount logo, which is Sharky the Shark, and you'll see him on our page, and you'll get to your shopping experience, which here we are. The sale this week and by the way, Deep Discount has, everything. They have LPs, they have books, they have toys. Mostly it's this enormous collection of DVDs and Blu-rays. Excellent media. They have games as well. So once you're there, the sale that they wanted us to talk about this week, which we actually like, is called In Memoriam, and it's films that feature individuals who have passed away in 2020. Which was actually quite a list when I began looking at, who had actually left and who was no longer on the stage, as they say. And it kind of was, I always hate that when they do the retrospectives because I always feel like a piece of my past is going away. Like when an actor in a movie that I loved is no longer with us, I'm like, oh boy, I don't know. So what was your pick in the In Memoriam?
So there were a lot of great things there, and in some cases I didn't know why. It might have been, I guess it might have been a director or maybe some sort of a bit actor or something. But I saw something and I decided because it's something we've all seen probably a million times, but probably none of us own. The Wizard of Oz. Do you own The Wizard of Oz?
We do. We own one that came.
Of course you do.
Do you know why we own it? By the way, I wonder if you remember, because didn't I give this to you as well as a gift one time with Pink Floyd's?
You gave me a copy of it. You did. You ripped me a copy
with
the Pink Floyd.
And it was which was it Dark Side of the Moon?
Yep.
Yeah. So that was the whole thing on the third roar of the MGM line. You had to hit the play button on Dark Side of the Moon, and then suddenly you turn down the volume on Wizard of Oz, and you just listen to the music, and it almost matches up. Especially when she lands in Oz, and it goes money. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Right. So I picked the Wizard of Oz 75th anniversary edition. You get it for it's under $11 at deep discount. And why I did that is because I tend to loan out a lot of movies, and the Wizard of Oz, I looked on my shelf and I'm like, it seems to have disappeared. So it's something I need to add back into the collection, and it's one of those that of course everyone should have. And then it made me think, and I looked it up, and you and I have laughed about this before. The famous description that appeared in a TV guide and Turner Classic Movies is posted before. Do you remember the famous description that they used in the TV guide to describe the Wizard of Oz?
It was like one sentence. I forget how many words.
It's
Go ahead.
I got it here. Transported to a surreal landscape, a young girl kills the first person she meets, then teams up with 3 strangers to kill again. That was the description in the TV guide. Can you imagine the Wizard of Oz?
Of all movies, Now
transported to a surreal landscape, a young girl kills the first person she meets, teams up with 3 strangers to kill again.
I'll tell you something. It's part of the plot, right? It's not like they're lying.
That's what it is, though, right?
All right. So for In Memoriam, my pick is 2 pilots that are hard to see. They're basically the same. All right. I'm getting ahead of myself. Gene Roddenberry, the creator of one of our favorite shows, Star Trek. He also did pilots for some other TV shows that were sci-fi based, and the first one was called Genesis 2, and then he redid that pilot, and it was called Planet Earth. The second one starred John Saxon, who I'm going to talk about in a minute, and he passed away this past year. But Genesis 2 is conceived by Gene Roddenberry, and it takes an astronaut named Dylan Hunt wakes up decades after being in suspended animation. This is a typical sci-fi trope, by the way. And he awakens into a very different world where there's 2 big warring factions, and he has to navigate that. The network didn't really like it, and he recalibrated it and recast it, and this time he did Planet Earth, and that was in 1973. And he had John Saxon star as Dylan Hunt, a scientist frozen in suspended animation. He wakes up in 2133, and he encounters a matriarchal confederacy. In other words, the planet's ruled by women, and their leader is Diana Muldaur, who she shows up in L.A. Law and Star Trek, and a lot of great cast, a lot of interesting cast. Fun to watch these 2 old pilots. They're about 50 minutes apiece, I think. So I picked that, and it's because of John Saxon, who you see here on the cover of the DVD. He was a big Hollywood presence. He made over 200 films, a career that spans 60 years. Italian-American, born and raised in Brooklyn, and then made his way out west. And he's been in a whole bunch of westerns and TV shows. Just a really familiar face. And I got to tell you, I was, as a young... John Saxon, I used to think was kind of sexy, actually. I'll just put it out there. So I was like, oh, John Saxon passed away. He might have been one of my first crushes from TV. I don't know. You're not reacting.
Oh my God. I'm reacting. I saw it coming.
You did?
As soon as I saw the picture, I knew it was up.
He's got that, he's got the dark hair. He works for me. All right, and the release...
Do you have this?
No, and it's amazing that I don't, because I remember seeing the pilot many, many years ago, especially Genesis 2, and I think I might want to pick this up, actually, because why not, right? Just to watch it. And it's that typical 70s, pace of how they told stories back then. And the release this week is... Now, CBS rebooted this, and I think it's on CBS All Access, so it's kind of cool that you can pick it up here at deep discount. And it's the Twilight Zone Season 2. They're going to be doing another season, I think, but it's Emmy Award-winning writer and director Jordan Peele is part of the brain team behind this rebooted Twilight Zone. I've heard some good things about it. I always think it's interesting when people redo a classic like The Twilight Zone. They had a marathon over the weekend, New Year's weekend, which was 2 weekends ago. They did a big Twilight Zone marathon, and some of my favorites popped up, some of the ones that make me like, oh, I can't watch this. So Twilight Zone seems to be one of those franchises or story ideas or shows or movies that just kind of always want to be remade because it explores the supernatural and all that stuff. But you can pick that up now. It's season 2, and it's the reboot. In other words, it just came out this past year, and that's over at deep discount.
So it's fantasy all around.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So head over to go to focusgroupradio.com, click on the deep discount logo. There's the in memoriam sale going on right now, and there's also lots of great other things there too as well. But while you're there, we recommend picking up Wizard of Oz. John has the 2 sci-fi pilots coming on one disc. It's Genesis 2 and Planet Earth. And then the new release this week is Twilight Zone Season 2 series is the new release. And again, deepdiscount.com. So stay with us. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got a shop talk to discuss with you about. I think it's more about it's about controlling time, right, John? As a creative and as a manager.
I really like this article a lot, and I think that Tim nailed that. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Focus on the savvy side of 9 to 5 with The Focus Group.
Been in business a week. I got more money than I know what to do with.
Listen, laugh, and learn with Tim and John.
Herrera Rocher. He is doing well.
Welcome back to the Focus Group. John Nash with Tim Bennett. Focusgroupradio.com is the URL of our website. Visit there, and you can find all our media, including our Tuesday podcast, TFG Unbuttoned. As Tim teased before going to break, we have a shop talk, and it comes to us, I think, from either Bloomberg Business or Fast Company. But the article is entitled, Slack and Zoom Were Distracting Our Teams. Here's how we regained focus. So in a nutshell, a PR and advertising, or PR and marketing company going full tilt before the event, then everybody began working from home, and they discovered some disturbing trends that was being reported back to them. And it had to do with time management and the flow. And I don't know if anybody, Tim, did you know what they were referring to when they went into the flow?
In what regard?
Well, so there's this...
The expectations?
No, there's this theory in how we work, that when we sit down and we apply ourselves to a task, we get into a flow. And especially with artists and people that are creating things. And when you interrupt it, it literally stops the thinking. It has to be restarted, and it's disruptive and it's interruptive. And what they discovered, this firm, is that they needed to take a step back and begin looking at how they had to address the 2 different aspects of their business, managers and makers. So a maker was someone who designed a web page, who did a logo. They were literally crafting and creating the deliverables, the content that they would give to their clients. And the management level was doing all the client interaction, phone calls. But what they found was they call this is a term that I've heard before, Slack. I think, I'm just going to use Slack as the main one, but Reich is another one that people have used. These are what they call asynchronous messaging systems. So supposedly, if you're on Slack and someone sends you a message, you respond to it when you want to. But people were actually using these work enhancers as instantaneous forms of communication, aka like a text message or a phone call. And they were giving equal weight to every single piece of communication they got, an email, a Slack message, whatever. They all got attention. And they learned that this was really, really eroding their ability to get stuff done. And then they threw Zoom into the mix, and how easy it is to schedule a Zoom call. Tap, 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 tap. Are you invited? You're invited. You're invited. Click, click, click. And suddenly you have a very disruptive day. So taking this information, they then restructured their day. And they said, okay, makers, we're going to give you the morning. We're going to give you like 2 hours or 3 hours in the morning. You don't have to deal. So that means that if there was a team that had an art director, they would not schedule the art director or the designer on any meetings until the afternoon. So that's basically the discovery was don't distract them, don't disrupt them. And the thing that I thought was most fascinating, they decided that if you needed an answer to something right away, it was a text or a call. Everything else could wait.
Yeah, I thought that was funny because you've always said that about a phone call, that, why not pick up the phone in some cases? And people don't do that anymore, right?
No.
A lot of times and they want immediacy. And that was one of my takeaways. Right before I left the corporate world for good, I think, I had people in meetings sitting physically in the room with me, sending me texts for things. I'm sitting here. You don't need to send me a text. Or they'd be in the office right next to me and send me an email. Or I'd like, get out of your chair and walk over and ask me the question. Because the expectation is either I don't want to have the face-to-face, or they want this, I sent you the email, it's done, rather than having the conversation. Or it's this immediacy of everything has the same level of importance, and not everything does. The other part about this, and you've often said this about the creative process of you being a creative person, you get more done out of the distraction of maybe doing something else. So you might be on your bike, you might be taking a walk somewhere, you might be sitting in the park looking at something, rather than being behind a desk. And I advocated that a lot, particularly when I was at Subaru, and I used to not get in trouble for it, but I would take people and we'd go to the local coffee shop in town for an hour and sit and talk there about, what we were doing, or what, event we may have had coming up, or working on some ideas for a campaign. Because the distraction and all the other things that were going on, I just think when you get out of that environment, you're more creative, you're more thoughtful, and you just, I think there's a different vibe. Rather than, as you mentioned, the managers that are scheduling, processing, signing an invoice, doing some of the other kind of managerial things. But a lot of people don't get that. A lot of people don't understand that there's just because you're not physically sitting behind a desk does not mean you're not working.
Correct. And one takeaway I had for a lot of our listeners that may be self-employed or work for them, or work for a small team or a small company, at various points in our business day, we're makers and we're managers. So I'm a maker, like I sit and do a lot of graphic design work and things for our company, but I'm also a manager at the same time. I have to hop on a call and do a budget or do a spreadsheet. And what they said here was whenever a maker is pulled away from their deep work by shallow work, such as responding to an email or Slack message, the interaction results in what the academic Sophie Leroy calls attention residue. Attention residue keeps makers preoccupied for a period of time, even after completing these small tasks, which then, of course, means they're not going to be going back and delving into the point where they were at before they were taken away by a shallow thing. So I would say the advice that I pulled out of this is if you are a maker and a manager, you're a small business owner or you're a freelancer, and you have to not only create things, but you have to manage your own business, do invoicing, collect money, do taxes. Those are all managerial things. You can't get away from it. Maybe the thing that I took away from this was structure your day around when you think you're the most creative. So let's say I know people, I'm raising my hand.
You're better at night. I'm better in the morning.
I sometimes am 7 at night. I get a jolt of something, and I could be up till midnight or 1 in the morning getting work done. And you could put me in front of a computer or a drafting table, or at 9 a.m. You're not going to get much. You will if I'm planning, but maybe that's the way the day should be surrounding you. Is maybe you take all your managerial stuff, you do it in the morning, you take a nice lunch, you clear your head, and then you take the afternoon for being your maker projects. And I'm talking specifically about people who have to wear both hats. And that's the way it kind of works with me and Tim. Tim actually, or Tim and I, sorry. Tim will get a lot of stuff done before I'm even awake. And then I get all the stuff, and it works, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's very much so. I'm better at 5:30 in the morning. You're better at 10:30 at night.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And that's the way it works. But no, I think this, my overall takeaway here was, it's okay to have some boundaries, and it's also okay to set priorities, and not everything is urgent and not everything has the same weight, and you need to respect each other's role and the boundaries. So, and I think you're exactly right. Zoom and Slack has allowed, it's too easy to invite everybody and put everybody on a call, and not everybody needs to be part of the meeting or on the call. It's the same thing people say about applying for jobs, right? It's so much easier now. Click, 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 click. I'm going to apply. So 10,000 people will apply for a job when 3 are qualified. But it's so easy to hit the button and send. Whereas back in the day, you used to actually have to think about it before you had to write out a cover letter and put a stamp on it and go mail it.
Yeah, and type it by on a royal.
Oh, I forgot that part. Yeah, just type.
So that was, I think it was a good article, and I would say the takeaway, as I said earlier, the meta takeaway is recognize the two different hats that get worn, either by you or by your teammates, and maybe play to those strengths and weaknesses, or I would say play to the strength and try to fix the weakness, and don't be afraid to change the day, and don't be afraid to not answer things like an email right away or a Slack message, because they're asynchronous, they're not meant to be real time, and if you do need a really quick answer to something, as Tim said, pick up the phone. I mean, we had an email outage for the last 2 weeks. We didn't realize we were not getting email at one of our. And
we thought it was a holiday.
Yeah, we were panicking and we're like freaking out. And then both of us kind of realized at the same time. I think Tim said to me, he goes, if they wanted us bad enough, they have our phone numbers. And that would have been, even if we missed the call, it would have been, hey guys, we're getting the mail returned to us or something. Could you give us a quick ring? Okay, fixed, right? So it's just funny how, anyway.
We really didn't talk about that a lot, by the way. Here I'm nervous and petrified that my mail has been out. And then you let me go down that rabbit hole for about 2.5 hours playing with my mail. And then you were like, you know what? I don't think I'm getting email either.
Well, I never tried it. That's the problem. And I was
asking you for help.
Here's a little insight for the Tim and John.
Well, I don't know.
Here's an insight for the Tim and John.
That's a problem.
Here's an insight for the Tim and John relationship. I was sure mine was working, so it had to be his problem.
Yeah. Oh, here we are again. Another tech problem with Tim. I'm sure you got off the phone.
Oh, no.
Tim's email's not working, Bob. Once again, I'm the IT guy. Once again.
But we did problem solve it pretty interestingly, because Tim said, could you check the settings for because we use like the Google G Suite, and I checked it and everything looked fine. And it was like, it looks identical to mine. And then I looked at my email only after about an hour, as Tim said. I'm like, and I said, I just sent you something about this loan thing or something. I didn't get it. And I thought, well, let me send it to myself. And then when I didn't get it, I was like, oh boy. And let me tell you, I did fix it pretty quickly once we figured out what it was, but it was kind of obscure. I should have known better.
But it was funny. Well, first it was. Did you read that article I sent you? No. Why sent it? I didn't say, silence. I'm like, no, John, I didn't.
And you said, where did you send it? I said, I sent it to your TriBrate account. Oh, I never checked that email. Okay.
So I get there, and it's not there, John. Well,
I'll send it again.
I didn't get it. He didn't get it. That's a problem.
It's a big problem.
I've got to go have lunch. But maybe after lunch, I'll take a look at it. And we had a call. Mm-hmm. And then I didn't see you, but I knew exactly what it was, because then all of a sudden you're like, what's the last date you got something?
Yeah, that was the tell-all.
Anything either?
Because Tim kept saying to me, Tim said, it's happened on December 15th. That's what, and I'm like, well, I got something on the 18th. It took a lot of detective work. We realized that we're launching a new company site.
You were smart enough to figure it out right away what the problem was. So
that could have gone on for another day.
You figured it out pretty quick.
Yeah, but that was like a Hardy Boys thing. Like, once Tim kept saying, this is the day the blackout started. I'm like, and then when I finally was like, that's when my
Ding.
Yeah. Anyway.
Hey, thanks for joining us today and hearing our inside dirt. John and I and our IT issues with our big shop. So, hey, be sure you mask up. Take care of yourselves. Thanks for joining us. And thank you for, as we go into 2021, John and I appreciate you guys joining us each week. Be sure to catch Unbuttoned, TFG Unbuttoned. If you go to focusgroupradio.com, all of our media is housed there. Our podcast and our shows are there. And we want to thank our sponsors, and thank you for supporting our sponsors, too, that bring us to you each week. Thanks to Deep Discount, I recommended Wizard of Oz this week. John recommended Genesis 2 and
Planet Earth.
And Twilight Season 2 was the new
Twilight
release
Zone.
this week.
Twilight Zone.
Or Twilight Zone. What did I say? Twilight?
Yeah, that's a movie too. That's yeah. It's about vampires and teenage werewolves and everything.
You're a movie catalog.
I am. It's crazy.
You get a job. You get a job at deep discount. So Twilight Zone season 2 is the new release. So everyone have a great week. We'll get through it. We hope 2021 is going to be better as it goes along. It certainly can't be worse. So mask up and have a good week. We'll see you next Wednesday. Take care.
It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.